My name is Larissa. We're going to practice together for about 15 minutes. And as we often do, just beginning with checking in with our bodies first and foremost. And just a reminder, our body is always present. It's our mind that often does the wandering to the future and the past. And part of our concept that we're working with, the Four Noble Truths, is really working with our mind, starting to look to understand our mind. And the first noble truth in its simplest form is simply that suffering exists, that we're all going to experience difficulty in our life. It just is simply a part of being human. And the beautiful part about that simple note, suffering exists, is it's also a reminder that there's nothing wrong when we're experiencing difficulty. It is part of being human. And instead of trying to fix it or, like, oh no, I'm feeling something bad, this isn't good, we're recognizing it's information my body is sharing with me so that I can tend. So, anytime we're experiencing difficulty, whether it's a season of life or it's these little irritating moments in a meditation practice, however small, the more that we can tend rather than avoid or ignore these little tiny sufferings or irritations or whatever we want to call them, the more we can tend to them, the more the big things we have resilience for. So it's really building a resilience practice and this way of just spending time with ourselves. So with that in mind, I'll invite you to notice your body. You can close your eyes, turning your vision a bit more inward. And noticing your breath. You might deepen it, but there's no need to change it. Just noticing your breath. Seeing if your body needs any shift in support. And as you're settling, perhaps making small adjustments in your body, noticing the movement of your breath. Just the invitation to ask yourself, is there anything that I can enjoy or observe as pleasant in this moment? It's any small detail. And just checking in, noticing if there's any particular thought that's pulling at you this morning. Is it the future? Is it the past? Is it one particular person or event? Sometimes it's just a random barrage of thoughts coming and going. The practice is observing, strengthening that part of us that can observe thoughts coming and going rather than getting caught up in every thought. The moment we notice we're caught in a thought, like, oh, I just disappeared for a few moments, right in that moment, we're back again. Just noticing the thought is enough. And then can you practice being gentle with yourself? Do I notice any sensation in my body that that thought brought? Is there any kind of emotion that I can notice that I'm experiencing? And is there any tending needed? Sometimes just reminding myself, it's okay that I'm having this experience that I'm having, whatever it is. Sometimes returning to that inquiry, is there anything that I can notice as pleasant in my field of awareness? It might be physically. Sometimes it's a nice memory that pops up. And rather than following the memory or following the thought, I'm just following what does the sensation feel like in my body? And then choosing to unhook from thoughts. And just practicing. Can I notice my breath, the fullness of the inhale, space at the very bottom of the exhale? And that gives us an anchor to return to. The breath is always moving, just like our mind is always moving. There's a similarity in observing thoughts and observing breath. But our breath tends to be quite a bit more consistent. Just coming back there again and again and again. Can I just notice and appreciate the simplicity of breathing? And the depth of this very first noble truth, the simplicity that difficulty just simply exists, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. And just knowing that that's true for all humans and all beings, it brings us back into our common humanity. No matter how small the irritation, I'm not the only one that's felt this way. Can I be gentle? Can I soothe myself? Can I give myself permission to feel when those little difficulties arise? Whether it's a small irritation of a foot falling asleep or a knee is getting tender, or you're remembering something that's bringing a big wave of emotion that feels challenging. Whatever is happening, it's your ability to show up for yourself that we're practicing strengthening. So we're not pushing anything away, not trying to hide or avoid from any particular emotion, just allowing them to wander through our landscape. And when we're aware of them, can we take care of them? Taking care of our emotions, our physical sensations, our bodily needs. And just moment by moment, what am I experiencing in this moment? Can I invite in that gentle appreciation practice? So appreciation is one of the antidotes for suffering, as is compassion. Just meeting yourself with compassion, with gentleness, no matter what comes up, breath by breath. And then following up that first noble truth that difficulty is just part of being human and we're not being picked on. Although sometimes we can get these waves of difficulty in a season of life and it feels like, oh my gosh, how much can I handle? But what we're practicing right now is just handling those little tiny things that arise. Like, oh, as I notice that thought, I notice my jaw is tensing up. Can I unhook from the story of the thought for a moment and just tend to that tensing of my jaw? And sometimes our mind is telling us, we got to fix the story, we got to follow the story, we got to say this, we got to do this. And it's not that that's not true, but in this moment, can I just tend to the tension in my jaw? And then from that first noble truth, the second, in its simplest form, is that there's a cause to suffering. And in the sutras, one of the major causes, one of the foundational causes of suffering is our resistance to what's happening. I don't want this difficult thing to be happening. I try to push it away. Or I want more of this good thing that's happening and I'm trying to hang on to it, even though it's shifting and changing. So, as we work with these first two concepts of the Noble Truths, just recognizing that difficulty is part of being a human and that there's a cause to the difficulty. It's getting to know ourselves, getting to know when am I sitting here just having a very neutral, almost pleasant time just watching my breath. And then suddenly my mind comes up with something and I'm gripped with anxiety or I have a moment of freeze or tension just coming from a thought. And can I notice when I'm resisting? Can I notice when my energy is trying to hold something at bay? And there's a yogic phrase that says, what we resist persists. So instead of resisting this flow of energy, whether it's a difficult energy or a really pleasant one, or just those neutral swaths of time and meditation where we're just kind of floating, instead of resisting, can we open ourselves up in gentleness and with tenderness to be with whatever comes for us? So whatever energy is flowing towards us, can we open ourselves up so that we're flowing as well? I'll invite you to just watch the flow of breath, the coming and going. The inhale and exhale are not fighting each other, trying to happen at the same time. There's just this natural ebb and flow. Just observe that for a few more moments. It's this wisdom of our body that knows how to meet the ebbs and flows of life. It's one breath at a time. I'll invite you to bring your hands into any of your closing habits or practices. I'll share just a very short passage from a poem. It's called When I Find Myself in Darkness. When I find myself in darkness, may I remember that is where the seeds are stored. Darkness offers me space to rest before those seeds awaken, to find nurturing, support, and time to absorb everything required for my growth. And as we head into the day, we'll end with a few loving kindness phrases. Repeat them back if they make sense for you. May I remember today that darkness is where I store my seeds. May I nurture the seeds I've planted. May I remember the innate goodness of my breath. And when action is needed, may I choose to move with ease and peace. And take your time whenever you feel complete. You can open your eyes, find a little movement if it feels good. As always, just taking a moment to thank yourself for setting aside time. Thank you each for being here, Sangha community.